Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. It's good to have you with me again. Some housekeeping as always before we get started. Please do remember to subscribe to the channel. It's free to do so, and it takes a couple of seconds. You can also become a member if you want to. I have 3 membership packages available. Check them out using the join button. And if you like this content, do remember to give me a thumbs up. This helps me to climb up that YouTube algorithm and reach a wider audience, which is something I definitely want to do, especially in relation to the topic we're going to discuss today. And you will see that I have a wonderful guest with me today. I am joined by the wonderful Gail Acaster. Hi, Gail. How are you?
Hello, and thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you for the invite, Peter, too. Yeah, super excited to have a chat, and let's see what we can come up with, see what conversations we can go with the flow.
Amazing. Fantastic. So, Gail, would you just like to give yourself a bit of an introduction for the viewers and tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Sure, Peter, thank you. So, hi, I'm Gail Acaster, and I'm a mental health awareness advocate. So, that encompasses quite a lot of things under the job role that I do at the moment. But the main part of my job and what I'm trying to achieve is the awareness. So, yes, we'll probably go into a bit later on how that covers those topics.
Oh, wonderful. And how did you come to be in this role? What sort of found you in the space of being in well-being and mental health?
It's funny. COVID was I suppose, the trigger that I decided to actually do something and get the qualifications and all the training relevant to do this. But
Mm.
I didn't actually realize how you sort of take stock of everything. But I've been surrounded by mental health illness for my whole life, really. Various
Mm.
from an early start in childhood. I grew up in quite a volatile, is probably the best way, childhood environment. So wasn't sort of
Mm.
given the tools to grow up and developed, as a child, like you should, having the nurturing side. It was it was tough. It was a difficult childhood. So you sort of carry that baggage and
Mm.
trauma and everything else, and then go into adulthood a little bit sort of clueless, thinking, I'm an adult now, I'm fine. And
Mhm.
it's interesting how things can spiral, and then that kind of sets the tone for your whole life. So mental health for me, I've experienced mental health issues myself, bouts of depression and
Mm.
anxiety, and needed to heal past trauma issues in order to then become the adult that I've become, right now. And we're all still learning, we're all still healing, and everything else.
Mm.
So yeah, that's kind of so about 5 years ago, I thought, right, this is where I want to be. And, this is, I feel I can give back. And I feel that,
Mm.
along my journey, that people have helped me and I've healed, and life, yes, I've got the qualifications, but it's actual life experiences that count and
Mm.
make that difference, and, have that empathy for people. So, here's the journey for the past couple of years.
Oh, fantastic. And I do find what you said there is those of us who have been through that experience ourselves, quite often you will find people who have had that sort of journey want to pay it forward and give something back and get involved in the mental health and well-being community. It's certainly how it is for me, which is why I'm passionate about trying to include this content on my channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, there's two ways, and humans, everybody's different, but there's, there's
Mm.
the whole hurt people, and they kind of,
Mm.
they don't get help, and, and they tend to project their trauma there, onto other people, which, there's loads of instances of that happening. And yeah, like you say, Peter, you've had experiences yourself, and it's kind of think,
Mm.
right, you've got this hidden empathy with people, you understand. And although everybody's journey is different, I could
Mm.
never what you've been through, and and vice versa. It's a case of reaching out. It's, I think, over COVID, and certainly as we're moving forward now, the whole human empathy connection is getting lost. People, it's not necessarily a bad thing on people per se, it's just they don't know how to reach out. So if for fear of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, and so people tend to, especially us Brits, we're quite reserved and stiff upper lip, and that
Yeah.
kind of and it's, for me, the biggest and hardest thing was just talking about it, just plain and simple, and then it goes on from that. So yeah. That
Oh,
makes sense. I went off on a tangent there,
yeah.
but
Talking is the best medicine, I find, but making that start, that initial brave step to reach out to somebody, is the most challenging part for many people. I'm quite lucky in that, in my own experience, I've always been quite open about pretty much everything in my life, and want to talk about things. So, but I know that's not the same for everybody. So for people who are in that position, who are struggling and really feel like they need some help, but they don't know how to make that first step, have you got any sort of tips or guidance on how they can make that first step and get the help that they need?
yeah, I mean, for me, and I'm sure there'll be people out there, and this is obviously, I'm explaining this from a female point of view, but it kind of
Mm,
crosses over with men as well. It's, you know, for me, I felt it was my fault. I grew up in an
mm,
environment where it's, that the pressure, the blame is put on the child. And,
mm,
as you get into adulthood, you don't want to relive that. And two, you think people are going to judge you. You
mm,
feel damaged. You feel not like everybody else, and that isolation, I guess, that you put on
mm,
yourself. Nobody else thinks that, and
mm,
more and more as the years are going on, there's more awareness being created. There's more things on the telly, and especially with the
mm.
males, it's the stigma of oh, man up. That's all going out the window now. It's a case of
Yeah.
speak, just let's talk, and it's having that confidence and that courage and self-worth to speak out, and it took for a kind person at work for me that just
Mm,
they didn't say, "Are you okay?" Because I would have replied and said, "Yes, I'm fine," and got on with my
mhm,
day-to-day tasks, and did my work as I was supposed to. It was one day was, "I've noticed you're not yourself." Really simple
mm,
words. "Are you okay?" "I'm here. Can I help you?" And it was that kind of said, "Do you know what? I'm not okay.
mm.
I just need to speak to somebody," and obviously that spiral. So it's that first. If you're watching this now and you're struggling, and you've got things you need to heal, but you haven't got a clue, and it's not in your personality or your comfort zone to approach somebody. There are
Mm,
so many helplines, and there's even apps now, which we could probably put some links somewhere online. There's
mm.
just to reach out, just to have that conversation, because the hardest part is that first one, accepting that you're struggling, and two,
Yeah.
accepting that you want to do something about it, and somebody else's trauma that they may have put onto you isn't necessarily your fault. So that would be my advice. Don't suffer alone, and don't
Mm,
just reach out even to a family member,
mm.
somebody, and if you don't have anybody in your close circle that you feel you can speak to, there's so many. Just Google. You can Google help and advice lines, and it's anonymous. And that
Yeah.
is probably the brave first step. Would you agree, Peter?
Oh, I totally agree with that advice. I think that is a wonderful way to to think about it and take that first step. What I really was interested in you saying there is from the other perspective of how it was for you, a friend, a colleague, noticed that you didn't appear to be yourself and asked you how they could support you. And I think that's so important. So anyone watching this who maybe is in that position of noticing a friend isn't quite themselves or feels a bit down, don't be afraid to ask them and say, are you okay? Can I support you with anything? I think that's so important, isn't it?
It's absolutely key, Peter. And this is kind of why I'm on a bit of a quest in the workplace to think, right, what a great starting point. People have to go to work to pay the bills. Whether you're struggling or not, everybody's in that position of that hamster wheel of, get up, go to work, come home, draw the curtains, and do whatever you do to sort of numb the pain, go to bed, and start all over again. And I think at work, if people are educated and can recognise the signs, can recognise those little things, that they're not eating like they normally do, or, whether it's colleagues, whether it's management, whether it's a dedicated specialist in an organisation. I mean, if we would have mental health practitioners like myself in every single, you would know to say, oh, let's have a check-in. And sometimes it might be that you're just having a bad day and you just think, somebody giving you, that hand on that shoulder scenario and saying, oh, just have a cup of tea, go take time out, and then just sort of recalibrating yourself. So, I'm not saying that everybody has got trauma and, you go to work and you got to spot the signs. It's a case of just looking out for everybody and bringing back that human kindness again, that seems to have dwindled across over the years. So yeah, it's just that it makes such a difference to people and their lives, and I'm aware of it. I can spot the signs, and it's so powerful. And then the rest is the journey, and it's down to the individual.
So true. I mean, there is support for people who are going through these journeys, but it is down to the individual to accept that help and accept that guidance and whatever that looks like. And that can be very daunting because it can be a number of things. It can be counseling, it can be medication, or a combination of both. It can be diet or exercise, any number of things. So it can feel like a lot, but you've got to be willing to buy into that with the support that you're getting, haven't you?
Absolutely, and it's not easy. I know some people feel going to the GP. Now, I'm not going to poo-poo that in any way, shape, or form. But GPs are not qualified mental health specialists, so they will put you on medication. It feeds the whole economy, and but it doesn't actually address the problem. And they'll be referred to maybe counselling, and that's a long process. There's more help, immediate help that you can get out there to, tackle and put you on that right path. Independent counsellors, therapists, coaches, there's loads and loads of support out there. So unless you've got a mental health illness, which is very different from mental health issues, you do need the medication. You do need to regulate, the levels in your brain that are obviously causing the illness. So that's a totally different ball game and totally different subject. But, if your mental health is struggling for whatever reason, it is better to seek the professionals, firsthand.
Definitely. And they will understand better than anyone that you are unique as an individual, because it's so easy. You have to stop yourself sometimes as somebody who's been through this. And when you talk to others, it's important to stop and listen to them and not say, well, this, I can relate to that. This works for me. That worked for me. That didn't work for me. I think I zip up at that point and I listen to them, because their experience is very different to what I've gone through. Everyone has a different story.
Yes, absolutely. And everybody processes things differently. I've found it helpful communicating, but the next person might find it better to write something, or
Oh, yeah.
or do something more creative. There's ways. I mean, for my journey, it was that speaking out, and then it was getting the help and to obviously to start on that journey, and then the rest was down to me, to build that resilience, to build yourself up, and then the responsibility was onto me to sort that, and you're doing it's. I think we're hard on ourselves as humans. It's a case of just accept that we need help, and and then praise yourself. It's like when kids are at school and they do well in an exam and they get the marks and they say well done, why can't we do that with our own selves and our own sort of mental health, and say, do you know what, I survived today, and
Yeah.
and it was a good day. I survived today, and I'm one step closer, to getting where I want to be. And why can't we do that? We put so much pressure on ourselves, but I think that's where we need to be kinder to ourselves. I think it's
Oh,
probably the
I
message I'm
so agree.
putting on here, trying to
Oh, I so
say.
agree with you, Gail. Completely agree. And that can be something really simple. Like when I'm feeling a bit like not myself some days, because I have ups and downs with my journey, and some days are better than others. On days where I'm not quite feeling as perky as I feel I should be, there's that should word. I look to how I can give myself a little treat each day, and it could be something as simple as when I'm taking my son to college, I'll maybe just pop through the drive-through Starbucks and get a nice well, at the moment it's coming up to Christmas, an eggnog latte, and it
Oh,
just cheers me up. So little things like that can just a little treat to yourself, a gift to yourself, can help you on your way to a better day.
oh, absolutely, and that's great advice, Peter. And even for me, it's a nice hot bath at the end of the day.
Mm,
I have each payday, I'll go and get some bath bombs or something
mm.
girly and sort of nice, and then I have a little sort of display shelf, and I let my daughter does nick them a little bit, but it's mum's treat shelf, and I'll pick something nice, and you're right, it's not gonna change the world
Mm,
dramatically or in the grand scheme of things, but it's that, you're right, it's that self-care, it's that self
yeah.
love, to think, do you know what, I deserve a little treat today, whether it's been a good day or a bad day, and that is how you can manage things. It's
Mm,
the whole spiral thing, isn't it? You have a bad day, you go to bed with sort of that bad energy, you wake up the next day, and it's you've got to take stock of where you are and what you've
mm.
achieved, rather than um, us humans, we are very negative, and we
Oh
do
yeah.
focus on the negative, but why not start reprogramming, so as soon as one negative thought enters that head, it's a computer up there. One
Mm,
negative thought goes in, we can stop it, we can say, oh, halt here, and think of three positive things. I do it a lot of the times. You've got bills to pay, you've got kids have got their problems that need
mm,
deal with, and teenagers, say, for example, I know you've got children as well, haven't you, Peter? So you'll relate to
mm.
this, and it's
Oh yes.
so then you absorb their problem. You could be in the best mood ever, but then you absorb their problems, and then and you turn on the TV and the news, the world's in
Mm,
bother, and before you know it, and it's a case of, it's physically stopping yourself and saying, right, okay, deal with that, deal with that, let's sort that, right, okay, three positive things right now, and that's, I go on about gratitude so much. I've
mm,
read books, I've done the mindful, people have different mixed opinions on that, but like you've just said, that one small treat gets you through the day, you're appreciating something nice, and it really does make a difference. When this is more so as you're going through your healing journey, not
mm,
necessarily at the start of it, because that you can't when you're in that sort of tunnel, that sort of dark place, it is hard to see the light and effects. But you just
Yeah.
got to take each day and not put any pressure on yourself, and just know that it won't last. So it's the only
Oh, definitely.
advice I can give, I guess. But
Oh, wonderful advice indeed. And we sort of hinted on it a little bit in terms of how men and women maybe react and cope a bit differently to mental health. Can you talk a little bit about that? And can you sort of maybe give your opinion on maybe why that may be? Does it tie back to stereotypical male-female roles over time and that sort of pressure?
yeah, Peter, that's a good question. I think now things more modern day. I think probably 5-10 years ago, might even be a bit less than that. Historically, women, we talk, we have our coffees, we have our moans, that kind of thing. Women seem to be more vocal, whether it's moaning about their husbands or kids to something, more serious that they're struggling. And women
Yeah.
generally are easier to, be more open than, say, stereotypically men. Men tend to bottle things up. I know in the construction industry, for example, or, sort of ex-forces, it's kind of they're inbred to sort of be the man and be masculine, and it's not considered masculine to talk about how you're feeling. So, but I think times are really changing now. There's so
Yeah.
much awareness out there. I know Andy's Man Club has made a brilliant progress in terms of knocking that stigma down. And I know more and more companies are trying to implement, and do things more to bring this out of say the male female sort of gender, and obviously there's all other communities and cultures that we've got nowadays, the LBTGQ. I've not said that right, have I? So
LGBTQI plus, I think it is.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry if people out there listening, I've got that wrong. I'm hopeless at things with acronyms.
It is very difficult.
Yeah. So we know what we talk. We get the general gist of everything. So there's a lot more cultures and differences and different things, to obviously to talk about. So I think that it's getting better, and I know more and more people are talking about it. I don't think there's as big a divide. However, there is still some work to be done, I would say, with maybe, men talking about it. But I think it's probably a past generation thing. So, you go back several generations, men didn't talk, and possibly women didn't. And then as the years sort of evolve, more and more generations, and as that sort of dwindles away, the modern day, although the alarming statistic, and I learned this when doing my mental health training, was that the 18 to 25-year-olds don't tend to talk as much or open up. So there's some work there. I've been working in my local schools to try and generate some awareness in sort of schools, and trying to get young people to engage and open up a little bit. So there's probably some work we need to do there as a nation. Not that the government will be watching this, but we need some sort of change in
Yeah.
that culture, because otherwise all the hard work that we've been doing is going to get lost in sort of the newer generation. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think you're right, because my oldest son is coming. Well, he's 16. He'll be 17 next April, and I'll not name him or embarrass. I used to, as
Yeah.
he was growing up, share photos on Instagram of all we did but now he doesn't want me to share anything. In fact, when I took my Instagram profile open and public briefly a year or so ago, he asked me, "Dad, would you mind putting that private again?" Because I think he's very, very private, and there was photos on there from when he was little. So of course.
Yeah. Okay.
So I can only hope that, and I'm sure he does, because he's got a great group of friends, and the right type of friends as well, sort of level-headed and common interests. But I just hope that he's talking with them when he needs to as well, because he's in those sort of teenage
Yeah.
years right now where we talk about, I mean, he and I talk a bit about football because he likes football, I like football. We support different teams. He likes Arsenal, I support Newcastle. So we have a good bit of banter when I drop him at college and that sort of thing. And I take him to his Sunday games. But he wouldn't dream of talking to me about anything personal or whether he's interested in girls or boys. I have no idea. I have an inkling, but that's his choice. That's down to him. But we don't have that level of discussion. But I hope he has that with his peer group. I think that's hugely
Yeah.
important.
And you're right. I think maybe just, as parents, all you can do when they sort of get to that stage is, just say, look, if you want to reach out, if just so they know there's sort of, something there. And if you do, as a parent, it's our jobs to notice and take stock. And I think you would notice as a parent, as would I, if your child isn't necessarily, there's something bothering them. Put it that way. Both
Definitely.
my children, they're teenagers now, but both of them have had, issues that they've needed support, and not necessarily have said, "Oh, I'm struggling here," but you just kind of sort of pick up. And we have little talks. Just we have 5 minutes a day, and it's called the 5-minute rule, which sounds like
Oh,
something. And we do, and it's literally who has. I say to the kids, "You've not got 5 minutes to talk to your mum," and it's a case of "You all right?" And even if it's a "Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm fine. and it's just having that sort of social interaction. Yes, you're not guaranteed that they're going to open up. My daughter, I think we've got kind of a bit of a close relationship, to be fair, so she probably would open up. But yeah, I mean, my son, who's coming up for 15, if I said, "Oh, which girls do you like?" or he'd probably, or boys, he would probably clam up and be like, "Oh, that's sort of embarrassing." But yeah,
yeah.
it's just that check-in, isn't it? And I think the whole point of what we've been talking about so far, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in your friendship group, whether it's in, just having that check-in point of saying, I've noticed you're not yourself. Do you want to talk? And if you don't want to talk to me, who would you like to talk to? And then sort of signposting them to wherever would fit that person, accepting that everybody's different, everybody's style's different. I was going through what I was going through as a kid, and I'm sure there must have been teachers, they must have seen signs, I'm sure they must have, but I wouldn't have opened up as a kid. Fear of being in trouble with my parent. There was no way
Yeah.
I would have opened up in that scenario. And it's just a case of, but if somebody had sent me somewhere, do you know what I mean? As a kid, you sort of needed to be looked after, sort of sent me to a wellbeing person, or said, "Oh, we've got
Yeah.
this lady in school that talks to pupils about things." Maybe I'd have opened up to something like that. So it's having the right people in the right places, and having designated staff members that can cater. And I think if you're a corporate or a company, and most people, everybody has HR, because you have to for pay, for sicknesses, and
Yeah.
and the well-being of staff. There needs to be something that incorporates that within, a qualified mental health specialist that can, deal with this and spot the signs and have well-being days and have, that kind of thing moving forward. So yeah, that's it's about communication, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. And a lot of employers have those initiatives now. I mean, I'm so lucky that I work for a wonderful company called Insight, and the initiatives they have for their employees is just fantastic. We have those well-being days. We have mental health first aiders who all sorts of different diversity groups that you can become part of, and you just feel so loved, basically, and respected, and for lack of a better term, seen, I guess, is one of the words that gets thrown about these days, and it's so wonderful. that we have that. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I got COVID a couple of months ago now, and
Oh,
when I caught it for the very first time, I had the sort of fever symptoms for a while, and then after that, I just felt extreme fatigue for a couple of weeks. And towards the end of that, after I came through that extreme fatigue, I had a couple of weeks where I just felt really down, really
mm,
depressed. And I recognize that I'm sort of 10 years into this journey now, and I know my triggers and I know the things that I can do to get myself through them. So I reached out straight away to one of the mental health first aiders
brilliant.
at my work, and she and I had a lovely little chat. And you know, sometimes it's just reinforcing the things that you know you need to do when you've been on this journey, but it's having someone else remind you of that, and just having that talk, a general chat about things, just
Yes.
can lift you and set you on that path to right yourself again. So, but not everybody has that in their work. Has your experience in working with organizations and schools, are we seeing more of that in organizations now? Do you think that's getting better?
It's just starting to filter, Peter. We're a
Mm,
lot further forward than we was, say, a year ago. So
mm,
it is. Companies are, we've had mental health, World Mental Health Days. We had one in October, and we have
mm,
various awareness things. And I know there's a massive push on men's mental health, right
yeah.
now. And so it's a case of there is more. So I think what will happen is we're generating all this awareness, and then it will start to filter through a lot more.
Mm,
I think with the work I'm doing, and various other people out there that are doing similar things, and other organisations, I think in a year's time we should be able to have things in place in most organisations, and even smaller organisations, just to create
mm,
that caring, empathetic culture. Daft things like me going in as a stranger that doesn't work there every day, that's not part of the
mm,
management team, that they think to themselves, oh, I don't open up in case it goes against my job, or if they think there's a problem, will they replace me?
yeah.
People are scared of losing their
Mm,
jobs right now. So
mm,
with the whole cost of living crisis and everything. So, yeah, even just, having a forum, a chat, a drop in. I've got quite a few courses, different styles and different versions, to hopefully sort of get that message across next year. And there's a new, in my local area in Hull, we've got a new charity called Hopen. So it's designed to be hope,
wow.
and obviously hope, and it's like open the door. So when people need some
Mm,
help, we're getting together a group of different people in different fields, from counsellors to wellbeing people to coaches. So there's a support hub for people to sort of reach out.
mm,
I did a walk with them yesterday, actually, and we walked 4.5 miles in the cold and the wet.
awesome.
But it was great, and a couple of people spoke about things and that maybe wouldn't have done that
Mm,
because they felt safe. It was
yeah.
a walk out in nature, which had the feel good
At
factor. And
ease.
so, yeah, it's just more things like that. I think in a year's time, we should have a very different story.
So, Gail, you've talked a little bit, or you've hinted about your own experience of this journey. Is that something you'd be comfortable sharing a bit more about, what you went through and how you got through that?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up with a parent with mental health illness, along with some issues. So
Mm,
it was a very hostile, restrictive environment. He had fears of the outside world, and
mm,
it was a very, very tough. So if you think the first 7 years of your life form the rest of your life, in terms of you learn the basic characteristics of love, nurture, support, and
mm,
unconditional love. So by 19 I
mm.
didn't have any parents, and it was a case of facing the
Wow.
world alone. And you've made I made mistakes and various. Well, can I say mistakes? No, it's learning, because nothing's a bad experience if you learn from it. And it's so yeah, it was a case of right. I reached out at work, and it was a case of right. Let's start this healing journey, and it takes time. You can't heal overnight. It's just a case of you live in. I was grateful each day that I wasn't in that environment, and then going through sort of the basics. So I'm testament that you can reprogram that sort of mindset, that training, that any sort of trauma, abuse, however you want to label it, you can overcome it. And there's been some pretty dark times, as we've discussed off air, Peter, that some very, very dark times that had I not have spoken about them, I cannot hammer home as much. And even if you speak out and people do judge you, or you've just got to keep speaking out and getting that support. And
Yeah.
everybody's life is a book, isn't it? You arrive alone.
Oh,
you
yeah.
leave this world alone. Everything else is sort of chapters, learning and battles and good times, bad times, and it all makes the collection, the book of your life, so that when you leave this plane of existence, which is very morbid, I'm sorry everybody, but it's facts, isn't it? But yeah, it'd be nice to think that right, you made a difference. Everything that you went through was for a reason. And the more I talk about my experience and other people talk about theirs, my trauma can be somebody else's survival guide. You just never know.
Oh, that's a wonderful perspective that you shared with us there, Gail. I really appreciate it. So I've really enjoyed our conversation. I could talk to you for so much longer, and I would love to have another conversation with you again. But your time is very precious, and you've been so generous with it. But before we wind up, can you maybe share how people might be able to reach you and get in contact and avail themselves of your wonderful guidance and support if they need it?
Oh, thank you, Peter. And thank you for having me. And yes, there's many, many more topics we can cover. There's other various aspects to life that we can cover in terms of divorce, relationships, job stress, changing jobs, changing career, children. The list could go on. So yes, I'll be more than happy to come on the YouTube channel again. The best way to contact me is via LinkedIn. It's a great platform that I use to post most of sort of what I'm doing. And so if you type my name, Gail Acaster, into LinkedIn, I do have a business Facebook as well, so you can reach out to me on that, and that's got my email address. And if you are struggling out there and want a port of call, you can send me a message, and I can signpost you into the right direction if it's something that needs help with that I can't help necessarily, or whatever. But any businesses out there watching that thinks actually our business could benefit, I'm doing a series of online workshops throughout the year, starting from next year. So as managers and staff, you can log on to there and ask questions. Bit of a Q&A forum. So yeah, I'll be doing that in the future. So thanks for that, Peter.
Oh, thank you so much, Gail. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. I shall wish you a very pleasant rest of your day, and look forward to speaking to you again, hopefully very soon. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to Gail Acaster there. We had to cut the chat a bit shorter than we would have liked due to some technical issues. We were having some lag on the recording that we were using, and it just wasn't practical to continue. But we will get Gail back on and talk some more, hopefully with some better software than I'm currently using, because that was such a shame. Anyhow, I hope you found that video useful and informative. I think Gail is very, very inspirational and someone I've enjoyed getting to know, and is an important part of our well-being and mental health community. And I look forward to speaking to her again very, very much. Right, let's wind up the video and let me know what you think. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Hopefully the quality of the video and the recording was not too disruptive. And please hit subscribe to the channel, and you can consider becoming a member as well. So until next time, I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.